God for me is not a theory.
How do you get from the text on a page in ancient documents to a man actually raised from the dead? See, it says deus there, but I think it means dead.
Well, how do I get from text on a page? That's quite a lengthy process. How do you get from text on a page in ancient documents to believe that Caesar invaded Britain? Well, now that's no claim to the supernatural, but it requires a lot of historical research. And the way you do that, I like this question, and I've got a very detailed answer to it at the back end of my book, Gunning for God, because the arch skeptic about resurrections was the Scottish Enlightenment philosopher David Hume, who said that miracles are violations of the laws of nature. He was wrong, of course, as is not very difficult to see. But that means that many of my friends and colleagues just say this is absurd, and they say what you've just asked, how do you get from a text on a page? Well, the point is, texts in ancient documents are evidence, and ancient historians take them seriously. And that's where we start at the historical level. And many people, I find, have no idea what the textual evidence is behind the documents that now form the New Testament. And it's very important, actually, to get to grips with this. Otherwise, we get very superficial dismissals of this. Luke, who wrote the third gospel, was a brilliant ancient historian. And you get at ancient events by reading ancient history and what ancient historians say. Now, when it comes to this particular question, the interesting thing is not only do the vast majority, and I mean the vast majority of ancient historians, whether they're atheist, Christian, or anything else, not only agree that Jesus existed, but that many of the things claimed in the New Testament about him have a factual basis, including the fact that the disciples seem to have seen something. Now, that's as far as ancient history can go. But you see, there are two ways of approaching this. There's the objective historical methodology, and you can argue, and it's important to do so, and I've spent my life doing it, saying, well, if Jesus didn't rise from the dead, how do you explain the empty tomb and things like that? Now, we can't go into that in detail now. But then there's another way, and that is the subjective thing, because if Jesus actually rose from the dead and is the Son of God, then he can be encountered now in our personal experience, and we can have our lives transformed. And I've seen this happen in my own life, the life of my family, but in the life of so many others who have come to faith in Christ from many different worldviews and found that he has fulfilled the promise that is on those pages of an ancient document. And in the end, I think the proof of the pudding is in the eating. Now, as to why some Christians don't engage.
So just to summarize that, because I think it's pretty important. Tell me if I got this right.
Important.
What?
It's very important.
Yeah, I know. So I want to summarize it. There's been also some really good chat about it too. But I think what you're saying is that actually there is actually a lot of evidence there, and you're not saying it at a superficial level. You really need to actually go look at that, engage it as a historian. And for me, I don't know if you read N.T. Wright's stuff, but N.T. Wright's stuff is really helpful in kind of clarifying that. So, you know, I'm an amateur. I mean, maybe I'm not going to speak for you. I'm an amateur when it comes to historian stuff, right? I mean, I don't speak any of the original languages. I've never actually seen the original documents. And the same way a lot of people have to rely on me for dealing with science, I really appreciated the both N.T. Wright's work and also the conversation he's had with skeptics of his work as well is really being helpful to kind of clarify what the evidence shows. So that's one thing. But then you're also talking about how the claim is that Jesus is alive and that the people still have a relationship with him, and you can have that sort of experience. And so that fits into it too. Is that a good way to really briefly summarize what you're saying?
Yes, it is, because you see, God for me is not a theory. There are theories about God, and they're important. He's a person who can be engaged with. And it's a cumulative kind of argument. The historical arguments about the resurrection, the logical arguments about the resurrection, and so on are all immensely important. But encountering the risen Jesus is the most important of all. But the subjective experience is validated by the historical facts.